In our last lesson for this unit, we're going to look at a couple of situations that have an effect on the respiratory system. So, the first one is exercise. So, you probably all know that when you exercise, you start to breathe faster. So, why does that happen? So, during vigorous exercise, the energy demands of the body increase by over 10 times. So, what that means is that your muscles are going to be carrying out aerobic respiration a lot faster, which means they're going to be producing carbon dioxide a lot faster. And so, there's going to be more carbon dioxide entering the blood. And what that does is reduces the pH of the blood. So, there's some chemistry that happens there. But basically, the pH goes down, which means the blood becomes more acidic, which isn't a great situation. So, that change in the blood pH and also the concentrations of carbon dioxide and oxygen are rapidly detected by cells in the walls of arteries. And these cells are called chemosensors. And so, the chemosensors send nerve impulses to the breathing center in the medulla oblongata of the brain. The increase in carbon dioxide concentration and the decrease in blood pH causes the breathing center to increase the rate of ventilation. So, how it does that is it sends nerve impulses from the breathing center in the brain to the diaphragm and intercostal muscles, causing them to increase the rate at which they contract and relax. So, breathing gets quicker. The increase in the ventilation rate helps to remove the excess carbon dioxide and provide more oxygen to the muscles. After you finished exercising, the level of carbon dioxide is going to start to go down. The pH of the blood's going to go back to normal, and then the breathing center will cause the ventilation rate to go back to your normal resting rate. So that's the effect of exercise on ventilation. The next thing we're going to talk about is asthma. So, asthma is defined as a chronic inflammatory disease of the airway. Some symptoms of asthma include shortness of breath, tightness in the chest, coughing, and wheezing. So, what causes that? So, these symptoms occur when the flow of air is obstructed as it passes in and out of the lungs. So, you can see in the diagram that the bronchial tube of someone with asthma has a lot less space within the tube for air to flow. So, why does that happen? So, it could be one or both of the following. So, the lining of the airways could become inflamed, so irritated, reddened, and swollen, and may produce more mucus, which causes the tube to get smaller. The more inflammation, the more sensitive the airway becomes, and the more symptoms that the person experiences. The other thing that can happen is the muscles that surround the airways become sensitive and they start to twitch and tighten, causing the airways to narrow. And this usually occurs if the inflammation is not treated. So the inflammation occurs and then the muscles start twitching and tightening. So you really get a very narrow tube, which the person isn't able to get the air that they need. Triggers often bring on asthma attacks. A trigger is anything or condition that causes inflammation in the airways, which then leads to asthma symptoms. So there are two types of triggers. There are allergic triggers, and these could cause the inflammation of the lungs' airways or the tightening of the muscles. Allergic triggers include things like dust mites, pollen, animals, molds, viral infections, and air pollutants. There are also non-allergic triggers, and they don't cause the inflammation, but they can provoke the twitchy airways, especially if there is some inflammation already there. And those types of triggers are things like smoke, exercise, cold air, chemical fumes, some food additives, or even really intense emotions. So that's just a little bit about two of the factors that can affect the respiratory system: exercise and asthma.